Yes, hello, good morning. My name is Helga Willer. I'm from the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture in Switzerland, and I've been asked to present some data on organic farming worldwide and in Europe. And here comes my presentation. Yes, I wanted to talk about organic agriculture globally and in Europe, about the latest trends and data that we have. Briefly about FIBEL, where I work, Research Institute of Organic Agriculture, which is based in Switzerland, but there's also institutes in Germany, France, Austria, and Brussels and Hungary. But the Swiss one was founded in 1973. And so we have a 50-year jubilee this year, which is great. About 300 people work here in research, advice, training, and international cooperation. And what I'm doing with my team, the statistics is just a small part of the FIBEL activities. And we have a great infrastructure now and a great site in Frick. And but we also work on organic farms for the research. Yes. And what I'll be talking about is just one activity of FIBEL, as I said, and this is the global organic data collection, which we've been doing for more than 20 years now. We have another jubilee in 2024. It'll be the 25th edition of this book for which we collect data on organic agriculture worldwide. It has a lot of data tables, but it also has reports and on many things on this development of organic in countries and continents, on market standards and policy support. And we have in total more than 200 data and information providers who help getting us this book together. And we have funding from the Swiss government, as well as from Coop Switzerland, and BioFach, Organic Trade Fair, has supported this for many years. And of course, our important partner is IFORM Organics International, the international umbrella organization. Yes, I will start with the global data. For the global data, I will present the 2021 data because we are at the moment in progress of collecting the 2022 data, but for that, globally, we don't have a consolidated view yet. We'll present that though at BioFach in February in 2024. And so we look at usually at 3 indicators, or actually at 4. The first is the area. Where is organic? Where does it stand with the area? Where does it stand with the producers? But I won't talk about those now. Then imports is another thing where we have more and more data, so that's interesting. And of course, the organic retail sales. So here I'll be talking about area, imports, exports, and organic retail sales. And to start with, where does organic farming stand? We have in Australia, we have a large part of organic farmland is in Australia, actually almost half of the global organic farmland with almost, with 35 million hectares. And that's followed by Argentina and several countries that are not in Europe, but France is now the number 3 in the world with 2.8 million hectares, which are under organic management there. But of course, there's also another way to look at the organic farmland. And one is, of course, to see how important is organic farmland within a country. And there we see that Liechtenstein, which is a small country in the mountains in the Alps, has almost half of its farmland is organic there, which is really quite impressive. Then comes Samoa, and then Austria, the number 1 country in the European Union. And then comes Estonia, which is number 4 in the world in terms of organic share of total farmland, and number 3 in Europe, and actually number 2 in the European Union. So I think you can be very proud. And this is how global organic farmland developed. We started off as 15 million hectares in 2000, and now we are at 76 million, and that's about 1.6% of total global farmland, which is of course still very little, especially when you think in Estonia you have already 23%. But you see there has been a steady growth over the years. Now, just a brief look on organic imports or exports. We have export data since 2018, exports into the European Union and into the United States. And there you see there's been continuous growth, and especially in the United States. And we have this number of 4.7 million metric tons of import products. But I'll come back later on that when we look at the European data. Retail sales is, of course, another very important indicator. Where do we stand? How big is the organic share, or how much organic products are sold on the markets? And the United States is the biggest market in the world with 48 billion euros in 2021. And then comes Germany with almost 16 billion, France, China. So these are the big markets. But again, also here we can look at other things, not only, and that is, for instance, per capita consumption. How much do people spend on organic food? And there, Switzerland is #1 in the world, because they spend in 2021 more than 400 Swiss francs per person in that year. And then came Denmark, Luxembourg, and Austria. Whereas the United States, which is in absolute terms the biggest market, has 146, so it's only a third of what Switzerland consumes per person. Yeah, and here you see market growth. You see there has been a very, very steady, strong growth since 2000 when we started. And you also see that in 2020, Corona year, that the market grew very fast then, faster than in the previous year. And that was, of course, because people were staying at home, were maybe a bit more health conscious, cooking there. And there we had a really, quite impressive growth in that year. And in 2021, it went down a bit. Well, it was still growth, but not so strong anymore. But when we looked at the global market in 2021, then it already started, because the growth wasn't as big as before with the rising food prices. So the market already went down a bit. And of course, the Ukraine war started only in 2022, but of course that has had a negative impact on the organic market. So we had this slowdown in 2021. Because the consumer demand weakened, and we had inflation started, and there was also food security concerns, and actually the European market was more affected by this already in 2021 than the United States market. And now I want to go to the European data. There, look at the same indicators again: area, imports, and retail sales. But for Europe, we have some more updates than for the global. So that try to present that. If you look at the organic farmland area, I said that before. France is the country with the largest organic farmland area, 2.8 million hectares, followed by Spain, Italy, and Germany. And these 4 countries have more than half of the organic farmland in Europe. Or actually, that's European Union, in the European Union. And again, the share of organic farmland, of total farmland, and there again, we looked at this, we saw this before: Liechtenstein, Austria, Estonia, Sweden. And what's interesting, that we have all of a sudden Portugal sitting among the top 5, where they had a huge increase in organic farmland in 2021. So they have already almost 20%. And if we look at these averages, Europe doesn't have so much yet. It's 3.7%, but that's because actually the Russian Federation in the statistics is counted as Europe, or also big countries like Ukraine and Belarus and the United Kingdom. But there it's still low. But in the European Union, we have almost 10% now, organic farmland. And if you look at the growth of organic farmland, you see there has been a very nice steady growth in the European Union since 1985. And we've almost reached 10%. But you probably know that we have a very ambitious goal in the European Union. We want to reach 25%. So the area needs almost to treble within very few years. We want these 25% by 2030. And so if you look at some countries, Germany is the biggest market in Europe. So you see we haven't had not such a strong growth, but a stronger growth in the past 5 years, which is very good when you think about this 25% goal. And Germany actually wants to reach 30% by 2030. So, okay, still a long way to go, but on a good way. Austria is interesting, of course, because it's the only country in the European Union which has already reached these 25%. And there you see there was a strong increase in 1 year. And I think this is when they joined the European Union. And since then, growth has not been so strong, but now it's actually at 27.5% in 2022. So that is, and I think they want to reach 30% by, yeah. Yeah, and Estonia, another country, another country with a high organic share, the second highest in the European Union. It's almost, it's 23% now, and also very steady, very good growth. And here I want to have a look again at the European Union, just to show you how the growth has been, very steady, very good. But now here comes an interesting graph that looks in yellow at what happened until now, until 2021. And you see the same growth I showed in the previous slide, but the blue bars, they show how much the area needs to grow in order to reach those 25% of organic farmland. And there you see that, yeah, the growth in 2020 and in 2021 wasn't really high enough to reach that goal. So a lot more has to happen. And this graph, I must say, some people don't like it so much because it looks a bit as if it was maybe not possible to reach that goal. But it's clear a lot of effort has to be taken. But if we see what happened in some countries in the last 2 years, then maybe perhaps it could be realistic. If you, for instance, look at Portugal, there the organic area doubled in 2021, and it stayed at that level in 2022. And that's because I think the support was improved in 2021. And Greece looks a bit similar. Also there we had a substantial increase. So to conclude on organic farmland, in 2021, the organic farmland grew by 8% and was thus faster than in the previous years. So this is really good. But of course, this growth needs to be sustained at that pace, or actually it has to reach 10% annually so that we reach that 25% goal by 2030. And it's clear that appropriate support measures are needed, especially in times where the market is not growing so much anymore. This is the European imports. And you see there's not been much change since 2018 when this import statistics was started. And actually we had a drop in 2020, which is probably related to the market, but it's maybe we need to find out more about that. And if you look at, there has been a shift in 2022. Actually, there was some things was different from before. There was several years when we had a huge growth in organic tropical fruit coming mainly from Latin America, mainly bananas. And now we see that Ecuador stagnated. Dominican Republic actually went down. 2022 is the dark bar. Peru dropped a bit, whereas Ukraine increased quite substantially and China increased even more. And Ukraine and China, what they are exporting for large part cereals and organic oilseeds. So that is one trend. And if you look at the crops, then you see the same story, which is that bananas went down a bit, oil cakes increased, soybeans increased substantially, sugar went down, and coffee stagnated. And so if you look at these trends in EU organic imports, we can see there's an overall decrease in 2022, which is maybe linked to the market stagnation decline, but maybe this needs further analysis. We saw an increase in cereal and oilseed imports, and the increases in the EU organic imports from China are probably related to the post-pandemic recovery. You know that China was in lockdown for quite a long time, which maybe also had an effect on the exports to the European Union. And in the Ukraine, the increase is probably linked to the fact that Ukraine couldn't export its products to the United States anymore, and was easier to export it to the European Union. So this explains this. And we also had a huge increase in soybeans imports from Africa. And this data, it clearly shows that for feedstuffs, the European Union still needs imports from these countries, and actually in EU organic production for arable crops is mainly used for human consumption, whereas for the feedstuffs, the products are imported. And this other trend, the decrease in tropical crops, is of course also interesting, and that could be because residues were maybe found in some, or it seems there was several cases in 2022. So there was some products were decertified. And it seems that the new organic regulation is becoming stricter in the field of internal control system group certification. And it is therefore expected that maybe not now, but in the future, producers will turn to other sustainability labels. Or if they've been double certified so far, like Fairtrade plus organic, they might be only Fairtrade in the future. And we actually see that these labels are gaining importance at the moment, and that might even increase in the future. Yeah, and now to the retail sales in the EU mainly, and here you see the biggest markets. I already showed those to you: Germany, France, and Switzerland. Actually, no, it's not only Europe; it's the whole of Europe, not only European Union. And because in 2000, well, there was in 2021, and I'll show that to you, was difficult, or 2022. But if you compare 2022 with 2019, you see that actually there was a good growth in that 3-year period in all countries here shown. And if you look at the distribution of the organic retail sales by trade bloc, we've of the same picture. The United States has 39%, almost 40%, so a bit more than the European Union. And then come China, Canada, and Switzerland, and other countries. But the United States and the EU, those two together, they have half, or 3/4 of the global organic retail sales. And again, here, looking at things in a different way, the share or the importance of the organic retail sales within a country. Denmark has the largest share, 12% of the retail sales, food sales are organic in Denmark. Then come Austria, Luxembourg, and then Sweden, Germany. And if you look, Estonia I have here as number 7 or 6. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, with a market share of 5%, which is actually quite high. Yeah, and the per capita, Denmark, this is just European Union. There, Denmark has the highest per capita consumption, followed by Luxembourg and Austria. And Estonia is with 70 euros per person per year, so also on this top 10 list. Yeah, here's the market growth up to 2021. You see, it was a good growth over the years. You see there was a strong growth in 2020 and a not so strong growth in 2021. And for some countries, now this is up to 2022, things continued very well, like Austria. Growth continued also through 2022. But in Germany, which is the biggest market, there was a drop. And actually, I think it's the first time ever that a drop happened in Germany. So that was quite special. And if you look at the provisional data for the European Union, it looks that also in the European Union there might be a small drop, but we haven't finalized the data yet. And if we look at the data that we have, we see that in 2022, which was really a difficult year with the war starting and inflation and everything, there were still some countries where the organic market increased, and that was the Netherlands, the United States, which is not Europe, but still interesting to know, Austria and Italy. But in many other countries, the market declined. And I think the biggest decrease was in Finland, well, of the data that we have so far, and that was almost 8%. But in Sweden, Belgium, Denmark, Switzerland, Germany, France, and Finland, everywhere, the market went down in 2022. What didn't decrease or stagnate or not grow so much was the food service and restaurants sales in 2022. And I think that is a very interesting development. We don't have data for all countries, but for France we have, and we see that there was a nice increase compared to the previous year. And the same picture was in Denmark, where we also had a nice growth. During the pandemic, obviously in 2020, people didn't go to restaurants and they stayed at home. So obviously these sales went down, but they seem to be on a very good path now. So in trends in 2022, after the two successful years, or more or less successful years, 2020 and 21, the market declined. So people reduced their spending on food or on organic products, and so, but it seems people still stayed aware of organic, environmental, and health issues, and so we're trying to get organic products cheaper. And in Germany, for instance, this was reflected in the fact that the growth rates in discounters were quite good. But for many market actors, it was a very, very difficult year. And what happened in 2023, in this year? Do we know anything about that? And we have some data from Germany. It's just one country, but maybe it's similar in other countries. We don't know. For fresh products, anyway, the market has accelerated since the second half of this year. And it actually, the data from January to September show that there was a 2.8% increase compared to the previous year. And discounters have the highest growth. But there's still, in terms of volume, there's still a slight decrease. And if you look at Germany, what it looks like in 2023, January to September, you see the total market increased by almost 3%. Discounters were the big winners, as well as others in the general retailers, whereas the specialized organic shops and online trade, obviously after Corona wasn't so important anymore, but those channels decreased. So we'll see what happens with the other countries when we have new data. Yeah, and I found a study where the various challenges of the organic sector are summarized very, very well. And that's the challenges that we have at the moment. And I mentioned some of those already, but I think this is a very nice summary, and I perhaps can briefly tell you what they say. The one is the vegan challenge. There's a vegan trend, and they say that for organic, this is maybe a bit difficult because organic obviously involves both plants and animals, but the organic industry has to react better than so far to this trend, even though I find it reacts, but maybe it needs to be even more. Then this planetary health challenge, and this is that many people find it important to address global food security, and that's sometimes maybe a bit in contradiction to organic practices. Maybe it's not in contradiction, but in organic, the yields are lower, and there's this thing of more land needed, and so so that is something that the organic sector has to work on. Then there's the price challenge. We talked about that. Higher prices is a challenge for the organic market, or was at least in 2022. Then is what they call routine challenge, and they say the organic sector has to look better at the consumer's needs and wishes, and that has to be improved. Then, of course, we have this challenge of local and regional versus organic. That's another thing. Sustainability challenge, that is what we see, that all these other sustainability labels, which are maybe sometimes not so strict as organic, that they are getting more and more important. And then also a climate challenge, which is climate change challenge, which is a challenge for organic and organic conventional agriculture both. And that there is definitely a need to communicate better the benefits of organic farming in the context of climate change. So to conclude, we can say organic farmland grew faster in 2021 than in the past. Actually, this is in Europe, I should say that. And but to reach the 25% goal, higher growth rates and more efforts will be needed. And after a modest market growth in 2021, organic retail sales stagnated or even declined in many countries. And inflation, food prices contributed to this development. At the same time, food service sales increased remarkably. And in line with the retail sales development, organic imports to the EU declined by 5%, and feedstuffs continue to be the key product group. And yes, and in order to maintain take-up growth, the sector needs to address current challenges. And I mentioned some of them, like the current trends, vegan trend, planetary health concerns, rising prices, and adapting marketing strategies better to the needs of consumers, the local regional trend, competition from other labels, and the climate challenge. So thank you very much.